Hey, I'm Emma Garlett and welcome to Paint It Blak. Today I have a very special guest here with me, Jade Dolman, who is an artist. You might have seen her artwork spread across Perth on walls and doors and libraries even, and even at Curtin University. But before we begin, I just want to hear it from Jade herself. So tell me a bit about what you do.
Kaya, my name is Jade Dolman. My artist name is Jade Panunga, and I'm Whadjuk Ballardong, Eastern Arrernte artist from Boorloo, Perth. And I've been painting murals. I think I did my first mural about 8 years ago in Dinella. And I guess in the last 4 years, I've been working as a full-time mural artist, which is pretty incredible. And I'm able to share some cultural stories about different sites in Perth and what they used to be for Nyungar people, and also what their ongoing connection is now for our culture.
So what does being an artist mean to you, to be able to do these amazing pieces of art all over Perth?
I think being an artist to me is about truth telling, a lot of it, and especially with my work, I'm a lot of the time painting about what used to be there in that site. And you know, with colonisation in this area on Whadjuk country, I feel like it's so important that we need to remind people of the stories of those specific areas and what they used to be, what they still are, because they're not historical cultural sites. Like, these are still current places where we can still practice our culture. So I think I really like to remind people that all country is traditional country, that we're still practicing our culture on.
It's quite significant that you're saying it has involvement in truth-telling as well as culture. Could you tell me about a project that you recently completed?
Yeah, so a project I recently completed is at PICA, the Perth Institute of Contemporary Arts, and the mural I painted is called Yandel, and that's the name of that specific area of the Northbridge Cultural Precinct. And that project was very special to me because it came from words from my pop, who is now passed. And it was special because they're words from an elder that directly inspired the design and the story of that mural. But also it was specifically about one of the swamps that were in that area that's no longer there, that was drained to make way for the city. And taking away the swampland has such a huge impact environmentally, but also culturally and spiritually for Nyungar people. It's not necessarily a sad mural, but I wanted to take people back to that time when it was a swamp and when culture was being practiced there, and our language was still really strong, and we were looking after the land and the land was looking after us. So it's kind of like a celebration mural. I wanted it to be like quite fun and vibrant. So yeah, I feel like I managed to represent that through there, and I think it's important to bring those stories to people.
Could you tell me a bit about the impact that your work has had?
The impact my work has had has created spaces for community to reflect on how far we've come personally, but also as a community, and what our involvement is in keeping culture alive. Like, what are we doing specifically that's helping Nyungar people, helping give Nyungar people a voice, helping telling our stories, and not telling stories for us, but helping give Nyungars or mob a platform to share their own stories. I think also the impact taking away the swamp would have had culturally and environmentally would have been massive. It's changed the space from being a Nyungar space to being a multicultural and a shared space. Having it being concreted over has taken a lot away from us being able to connect to country. So I think having my murals and being able to share the significance of our environment and cultural well-being is really important.
As an amazing Aboriginal artist and someone that's, quite young to this space, how have you found that for you?
Well, being an Aboriginal artist, I don't know anything else, so I don't really have a lot to compare it to, but from being in like the public art space and the mural scene in Perth, I've definitely noticed a big difference from my non-Indigenous mural friends compared to like my own personal process in coming up with designs and inspirations for my murals. I feel like it's a lot more it can potentially be a lot easier for non-Indigenous artists because you can just choose whatever you want to paint about and you can just paint it. Whereas there's so many cultural considerations that we have to take into mind and make sure that we're telling the right stories, make sure that we have permission to tell those stories and we're telling it in the right way. We're not doing it on our own. We're always taking the community with us. And like, for example, my process with murals, I always consult my family before I'm telling any stories. And yeah, including that process in my work I think it's changed my work dramatically, and like the standard of them. I feel like you can actually see that there's a lot more of a strong connection in the murals to the stories I'm telling. Whereas before I was like consulting, I feel like it just lacked depth and it was just a very like just single layered artwork. Whereas now I feel like I'm able to tell stories through so many different layers, and there's like my grandparents' story and then my parents' story and then my generation as well. So I'm able to kind of layer all of them to make a more of a meaningful artwork.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, it's really nice to hear that you've like integrated all the consultation in your pieces as well, because that happens for so many other Aboriginal areas. But artwork with other different types of artists, not Indigenous, it just might be them and and coming through their lens and their eyes, where you've taken a more collective approach. Yeah. And it's not just individual.
Totally. Like when I originally started, I thought it was just about my perspective. And then at one point I realized I was having more of an exposure than I realized I was, and that I was no longer being seen as just an artist representing my own story, but I'm actually representing mob and I'm representing Nyungar art and culture. Like, as much as I wouldn't like that label and responsibility of representing more than just myself, I realized that I need to take all of those things into consideration and be producing work that I feel like my mob and my family would be proud of as well.
So consulting Aboriginal people and your family, it's not an easy task. So how do you get people involved in your work?
Yeah, I think I get people involved in a lot of different ways. So firstly, it's the consultation where I'll reach out to my family and give them a little bit of a brief of these are the projects that I'm working on, these are the things, these are the areas that they're in, these are the clients, and just being completely open to like whatever feedback they have about those areas and our family connection or cultural connection to those sites. And then if a lot of things come back, then I'm able to take on the job and use a lot of that knowledge for inspiration in the design. But sometimes it doesn't always work out and there might not be a lot of inspiration or personal connection to those areas. So then I won't take those jobs and leave them for artists that have more of a connection to those places. But I'm also able to involve people in my work by getting painting teams together. And I love having younger Aboriginal artists come and help me paint my murals. And, it's just a lot more fun having company, but also it's great to be able to kind of like mentor and show other artists, younger artists, this is how I do a mural and these are like the process that I undertake and this is how I do my designs, and yeah, just like be able to answer questions that they might have and just be able to show them as well. So yeah, I think that's a really cool opportunity to be able to employ younger artists to help me with my murals.
Yeah, it's amazing. And some of them are really large. So one person doing it is just, don't know how you could.
Yeah, it can be very time consuming if it's a huge wall to do it on your own. Yeah. So it's a lot better to have a team for like a number of reasons.
I could imagine you'd have to use hundreds of litres of paint as well.
Yeah, sometimes. And especially if you are still learning the process of painting murals, it can be very costly as well if you're like doing the wrong process with that amount of paint on such a big scale. So I think that's also why it's good to like have more of a mentorship. And for younger artists, like even myself when I was starting, I reached out to a lot of mural artists. I didn't know a lot of Indigenous mural artists, so I reached out to non-Indigenous artists about different processes of like, how do I make a perfect circle and just stuff like that. So, and everyone's always so willing to share their tips and tricks. So yeah, I think now if I'm able to kind of pass on some of the things I've learned, then it's like a full circle.
But art is sometimes challenging, right? You have lots of different perspectives and people getting involved. Have you faced many challenges, and if so, what are they?
Yeah, I think I've faced a lot of challenges. Sometimes it'll be like physical challenges in completing the installation of the mural, whereas it might be like the paints or the medium or the surface of the wall is difficult, and those things can be very time consuming. Or the challenge can be more of a cultural or spiritual challenge if something just doesn't feel right, if maybe the client has different intentions to what you might want the project to represent. And I think you always have to listen to your gut feeling. And if it doesn't feel right, then it's probably not culturally safe. And the outcome of the mural might end up being used in a way that you might not be happy with. So I think it's great to have very brutally honest conversations with clients before you start the project, and that it's also never too late to pull out of a project. And yeah, I think like that would be my advice for younger artists is just listen to your gut feeling. And if you feel like it's not a reciprocal relationship, that you're not getting as much as they are getting, then it's probably best not to do that job and for the client to go away and do a bit more learning and figure out what they want.
It's quite powerful because what you're saying is you won't work for some clients.
Yes. And I think I heard this quote a long time ago that we're defined by the jobs we say no to rather than the jobs we say yes to. And I think since that point, I realized that that's so true. And there's a lot of type of work that I don't want to be associated with. And I think it would take away from my branding, but also the importance of me telling stories. And I've also realized that I value quality over quantity. So I don't want to have my artwork like everywhere. Like I want it to be like, I want every story to be important, because there was a time when I was doing lots of school workshops and I needed to do a different design every day, or sometimes it was 2 or 3 designs I had to do every day. And the stories just weren't as important as they are now. Whereas rather than doing like 2 designs a day, now I'm doing one every 2 weeks. So I'm able to put a lot more of my soul into it, and a lot more time and energy into the design. So I'm a lot more proud of the work I'm doing now.
What made you change and say, okay, I'm just not going to work for a particular client?
I think having a couple of really bad experiences really turned me off working for bad clients. Bad clients. I mean, I guess it depends on how you define bad clients. Yeah, it can be hard to tell in the beginning, because sometimes it's like almost too good to be true. If everything just feels like like, I don't know, it's just, yeah, like it's very easy sometimes, then that can also be a red flag. So yeah, I think there's just a lot of things you can look out for.
So looking to the future, if you could do anything you wanted, what would be your dream project and why?
I think I'm still figuring out what my dream project would be, but at the moment I feel like maybe having an exhibition on country would be really beautiful. I had my first exhibition this year in January, which was absolutely incredible. And I think I'd love to do it again, but to have everyone barefoot and connecting on country, like walking in the sand to see the artworks, and really create an experience with all 5 senses, so have smells there as well, and yeah, not be restricted by the confines of a gallery.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, watch this space. Hopefully we'll have that coming up soon.
Yeah, I don't know, I'd love it. That sounds so great. And I don't think anything's been done like that before that I know of.
Yeah, like as far as I know, I haven't seen anything like that. But I would love to have like set up a mural exhibition outdoors, rather than like small canvases, but like create temporary walls or like laneways at the beach. That's actually my dream, is like to have set up like all these different laneways connected.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jade, for joining me on this really special episode of Paint It Blak and talking about your journey. And to everyone watching, thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe.